Hi everyone. I thought I'd share some thoughts with you on using rubrics in a relational way and in keeping with multiple means of representation. After taking this UDL course, I really wanted to increase opportunities for my students to have reflective or recursive formative practice in the application of new concepts. So this meant being much less linear, so that students could go back and reflect on their thinking. I was also involved in a book club where we read Andrew Tisha Fitzgerald's Anti-Racism and Universal Design for Learning, and we'd had a discussion about increasing opportunities for students to learn from mistakes. So for me, this meant that students should have a chance to actually fix those mistakes. And again, the process needed to be much less linear. And the setting up of scaffolding, or formative assessment, needed to be much more like coaching than grading. And given all of this, the course then needed to drop its late marks and focus more on creating a space to grow and learn. I teach a few different classes, both synchronous and hybrid, and generally have about 200 students in a term. And I've been thinking about ways to make technology create opportunities for students to be architects in their own digital learning. So I started designing my rubrics so that my students and I would be communicating back and forth about the criteria. The criteria would be upfront and clear, and the rubrics would be a site of return as revisions got made. I think there are lots of ways to have students use feedback to adjust their work and move forward. I add rubrics to do that, partly because once they're designed well, they can be very time efficient. Plus, I think rubrics can offer clear direction for all of my really diverse learners. You can see that I put the comment right in with the criterion itself, instead of a general comment outside the rubric. In my institution's learning management system, if any change occurs as a result of a student adding to their work, I just get another needs grading notice, and I can quickly hop back in and adjust the grade. In this What Stood Out post, earlier criteria asked students to describe what stood out for them after a module. In detail, with an example, they are asked to reflect on their personal reactions and any connections to their cultural background or social identity. And this final criteria is asking, given what you've learned, how might this new understanding impact your thinking and or behavior in the future, and to provide an example. This person didn't provide an example, so my feedback is, I see that you chose not to provide an example. I look forward to adjusting your grade if you'd like to revise. This is an example of one criterion used in a rubric for a study group of the student's choice. These groups have some scaffolded practice drafts leading to a final summative scenario analysis later on. So in this rubric, they've posted an analysis of whichever scenario they've chosen to practice with. And one of the rubric questions asks that they ask a clarifying question of at least 2 of their study group peers. Students are told that by asking questions of other people, it helps those people consider what further detail they might want to include in their analysis. The more questions asked and responded to, the more expertise everyone gathers as a result. In this example, somebody has not asked a question of another peer. So my feedback is, I see that you asked a question of only one peer. If you decide to ask another question, I'm happy to adjust your grade. It's been my experience that students really like the back and forth checking on who asked them a question and responding, and they tend to ask quite a bit more than just the 2 questions. In the learning management system that we use, the criterion sections can hold quite a bit of feedback. If I have a lot to comment on, and all the communications can also be done using an audio file or links to quick videos with closed captions if I want to provide visual guidance in that way. I hope these examples have been useful to you. Happy rubric design!